The Seminole Headlines 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV begins right now, and we'll get it out of the way. It's a little bit early today, guys. We recorded it this morning. It's not live, but everything we need to talk about is already there for the offering. We've got the schedule. We've got the reactions to it. And then, of course, we'll have headliner questions, even if Ira didn't post it till midnight.
That was crazy.
After a listener prompt.
Yeah.
It was a busy Tuesday evening. Sorry, guys.
Yay, sausage! Register Sausage sponsoring the show as always, and we appreciate them very, very much. A lot of questions today about Register Sausage. People are looking for new recipes, guys, with the sausage. They want to know new and interesting ways by which they could eat this sausage.
Well, they should tell us what they come up with, because so far I think we've gone mostly with the basics. I think the biggest I've branched out is my box of instant jambalaya, throwing some registers in there. So,
ooh, there you go, Ira. Nice.
Corey, you, I got to give you credit or Stephanie credit, because when you told me she chops yours up and puts it in stuff on the regular and just throws it in a pan, that's all I do now. I just chop it up and throw it in anything.
It feels good. It's like you're nibbling on just bites. It's just sausage bites you're just popping in your mouth.
I like it.
Just nibbling on that sausage. Registermeats.com is the website. You can have it delivered to wherever you live. But if you're in the Southeast, certainly they're expanding every day. I had a meeting actually yesterday, guys, with you guys couldn't make it. Had a little lunch meeting with.
I was unaware of it.
I was going to say, I don't remember being invited to a meeting.
I talked to your people, and they said,
they just didn't even make it up the flagpole to us. Yeah. It was that unimportant.
The gatekeepers. You guys have gatekeepers.
Yeah.
But sat down with Ben and his guy Will yesterday, and we talked about some things, some more expansion in the works, guys. They're looking, not Alaska yet, but some more expansion. If your grocery store does not have registered sausage, go to the meat manager and tell them you want some registers.
Right.
Don't start a fight until they don't respond a few times, and then take things into your own hands.
But make sure to ask for the meat manager when you walk into the store, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do.
I just say, "Where's the meat guy?"
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's how I like to do. Where's the
meat? You just ask like customers. You don't even ask somebody wearing the apron.
Usually the elderly.
Yes,
I try to target the elderly.
Man, did you guys ever work in grocery stores? I know Corey did fast food jobs, and you had the ice cream shop. Did you guys ever work in a Publix or grocery store?
I never did, and I wanted to. I worked. The closest thing I ever got to is I worked in the Family Dollar store or whatever for like 2 weeks, and I got fired. I hated it.
So I worked at Publix back in the day, a long time ago, obviously. And people, the toughest part about that job was people would ask you, like, where's the rice?
You got to know where everything
the coffee is. And dude, I would just make stuff up. Aisle 17.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And they're not coming back to complain. And if they do, you're like, oh, you misheard me.
By the way, Ira, I don't think that flies anymore. Publix is up their game.
The kids know now.
They know where the hell stuff is now. You can ask anybody. That's the way it should have always been.
Not my day. I never got a tour.
Miami Publix where they just you got to fend for yourself.
Now they're like they must take tests on it or something, because they do everything. Back in my day, the only thing the only information I had is if they asked where they could get nickel bag or something. Maybe
I was introduced to the Tough Life.
Nickel
bag.
Oh,
a nickel bag.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was introduced to the Tough Life early on. I had to bar back at an early age. We were bar backing, buddy. That's what we were doing.
Yeah.
Hey, bar backing on the beach is where it's at. You make a lot of money and you see a lot of beautiful women scantily clad at that.
Not a bad deal.
It's ideal for 16, 17-year-old, because you can't serve beer. You're not allowed, but you get to see it all. I thought, this is my life. I like this. I want to be around these kinds of places the rest of my life. All right, so it is. The schedule is out. Let's see it. Post it up. There it is. I like the schedule, guys. Let's just start big picture. I'm fine with the schedule. Every year people gripe about something. Schedule's fine to me. I have zero problems with the schedule. What say you?
Yeah, I don't have any problems with it either. I mean, nothing. There's always going to be something you don't love, because they can't make everybody happy. I mean, last year's schedule, I think overall was pretty good, and I think this schedule is good as well. I mean, you can't ever get everything to line up exactly the way you want. And so Florida State certainly had some things that they would have had preferred. From a ticket sales standpoint, they're not thrilled about having 3 straight home games, and it's going to be tough for fans who live in Miami or Atlanta to make 3 straight trips to Tallahassee. That's probably not going to happen for a lot of them. But from a competitive standpoint, the biggest thing is you're hoping they don't, screw you over. And I don't think they did that. In fact, Corey and I were talking about it last night. The fact that, no teams that they play have a bye the week before play Florida State, and a lot of the teams that play Florida State have tough games the week before. I think Miami has NC State on the road the week before they come to Florida State. So, yeah, there are always things that you don't love, but overall, I think they took care of Florida State pretty well.
Almost every one of Florida State's opponents after Clemson play either Pitt, Notre Dame, or NC State before they play FSU, and none of them have a bye week, as you noted, Ira. Yeah. That combination alone says, okay, you're all right there. That's not bad.
Yeah, and the thing I brought up on the live show yesterday, the only real trepidation I have at all about the schedule, and you have to play them at some point, is I just don't like Clemson that early. That's the only thing. I don't like it being the fourth game of the season. But I also understand why they did it. I don't think this is something they will typically do necessarily, but knowing that Florida State's a top 10 team, knowing that Clemson's a top 10 team, knowing there's a decent to very good chance that they play each other again in Charlotte, you set that schedule up a little early, right? Like I think if there were still divisions, this game is middle of October again. I think, but without divisions, they're like, look, this is probably going to be the first of two. Let's have it separated by a couple months and not, feel like it's almost back to back.
Yeah, and that the cool thing about that show, and you guys were doing the live show last night. I was watching the ACC broadcast, and then I went back and watched it again after I put up the initial stories. And it's interesting, man. Like if you watch that production, the way that they not only talk about Florida State, but the way they present Florida State. In the opening segment, they show 5 clips of players, and 2 of them are Florida State players. The first player they show is not Shipley or the quarterbacks from Duke or Carolina. It's Jordan Travis, which it should be. And then they wrap up with Jared Verse. And so you get 2 of the top 5 guys throughout the whole thing, tons of Florida State exposure. The analysts all pick Florida State to win the ACC. They pick Florida State and Clemson to get to the championship game. You could tell that the conference they've wrapped their mind around the idea that Florida State is back in prominence. And that's cool to see because they have not celebrated Florida State for a long time.
Well, think about the early ACC commercial that we all had fun with. I mean, they did an entire 1-minute montage that featured a half-second clip of the Sod Cemetery, and that was the end of it. They were like, yes, it was a big FU to Florida State. Yeah. This is a complete shift in mindset, and I dare say it isn't just because Florida State's winning. I think the mandate is that, hey, man, nobody cares about Wake Forest. Nobody cares about Boston College. Nobody cares about Duke football. Nobody cares about half the teams in this league, bare minimum. The marquee teams in this league are Florida State and Clemson, period. After that, it's Miami and Virginia Tech, maybe. And then I don't know, whatever, Louisville, whoever. I mean, there's not. So I think they finally have figured it out here, and they're helped out a lot here by the fact that Florida State's finally good. I mean, we had to do our part too, but it seems to me that somebody said, look, guys, nobody's watching us for lacrosse. I mean, this is the Corey Clark article. Yeah. I mean, come on, man. What are we doing at the ACC network?
Nobody's watching these other football team games either. I wrote that story. It came out Monday. Ira, did you see those numbers? You did.
Oh, yeah.
You edited the story.
And in fact, I had a couple of people call me later in the day blown away by some of the numbers.
So those condensed games they have on the ACC network, Jeff? That's a really cool thing. Not every network does that. So kudos to the ACC for doing that. It's a really cool way to go back and rewatch a game. They're about 20 to 25 minutes long. Yeah. They show just about every play of a game. Well, Florida State, their condensed games this year have gotten right at 1.7 million views, which is a ton. The next closest is Clemson at like 950,000. Wake Forest is like 240,000 views total. Virginia's 230,000. You could take the last 5, because I did them all. I did every condensed game and what the viewership was on YouTube, which is a pretty good measure now in the age we live in to know how popular a team is. There's the YouTube, the streaming, the streaming viewership. The last 5 teams combined didn't add up to how many views Florida State had as one team. If you took all their condensed games, all 35 of them, they didn't get as much as Florida State did. Florida State is far and away the marquee program in this conference when it's good. And finally it's good again. And it was good to see the ACC network cared. I thought it was crazy. They were pimping the Florida State Clemson rivalry.
We were laughing about
for like 3 minutes. And more than half of the highlights were Florida State highlights. And a Clemson fan might be, guys, we haven't lost to them. And since Jameis Winston was shouting what he shouted at the student union. That was 8 years ago, and we haven't lost to him. But yeah, there was so it's not been a great rivalry here lately, but hopefully it's coming back.
But what also was interesting is and Roddy Jones, who was one of the commentators they had on the show.
It was Roddy Jones. That's what I thought. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah, and he made a point. He's like, look, if you're Clemson, you might be asking, why are they giving us Florida State so early? Because where those two teams are right now, you would assume, and Mark Richt said, Florida State has a massive advantage at quarterback because you have Jordan Travis versus a quarterback will be making his fifth start, Cade Klubnik. And he's a talented kid. He might be very good. Maybe he'll have a great game that day. But as right now, you would say, man, Florida State getting Clemson early in the year is when it's an advantage to Florida State. Florida State's bringing everybody back. You've got an experienced quarterback, experienced players. You got brought in a bunch of veterans. Clemson's kind of, going to take a little bit of time to kind of get going. They lost a lot from last year, including they're breaking a new quarterback. So Clemson probably might have preferred to have that game later in the year. So it's kind of an advantage to Florida State. And Roddy Jones even said on the show, he's like, look, people are going to ask the ACC, you guys made the schedule. Why did you do this to Clemson? But I think, look, man, they're doing what they got to do. It's Florida State's the better team. If you were putting money right now on which team has a better chance to make the playoff, we'll see. It has to happen. But right now, I think you'd put the money on Florida State. And I think the ACC is kind of putting their chips on Florida State right now.
Well, and also they know that those two teams are likely to play again, like we talked about at the outset. They don't want those two teams playing twice in 4 weeks or something like that. So you had to do that. But the other thing I would note here is that because you play LSU to start the year and you play Clemson in the fourth week of the season, so, your first 4 games anyhow, there's a lot of pressure that immediately shifts to Adam Fuller in this defense. I think we know this offense will hit the ground running. We know this offense because they just did it a year ago, and they're even better now. And you've got all that experience with Jordan Travis, but you brought a ton of people back, and you've added to this defense. If you're going to be 3-1 or 4-0 to start the year, which opens the door for you to make the college football playoff, opens the door for you to win the conference and maybe be a top 5 team at the end of the season, you're going to have to get stops against 2 very good football teams, LSU and Clemson. One of those games is on the road. The other, obviously, in Orlando, which is a pseudo-home game. We'll see. But I think the pressure shifts to that defense. It was there anyhow, but because you're playing 2 good teams to start the year, I think that defense has got to take huge steps forward. They probably can. I'm not saying they won't. It's not an admonishment. It's just I think the pressure is on them because I think Florida State's offense is going to be elite all year long.
I mean, you'd like to think, but we also saw the Wake Forest first half. We saw the Oklahoma early in that game. We saw some other games as well where the Florida State offense took a while to get going. So I'm with you on paper for sure. But in some of these bigger games, the offense has to get off to a better start too.
Yeah, and that's what the one advantage when you look at this schedule and you think about those 2 games in the first 4 weeks is, and I mentioned on the show on Monday night, is this team now has some experience with stages, big stages, and those are going to be big. Those are going to be the 2 biggest stages of the season. And they that Oklahoma game, I know it was a Cheez-It Bowl, but it was a massive crowd for that game, and there was legitimate pressure on a team in a Cheez-It Bowl to get to 10 wins. And I didn't think they played well. I know they didn't play well to start that game. But as the game went on, they did play well. They won that game. There was pressure on them to beat Florida because that was not a good Florida team, and they wanted to finish with 5 straight wins. They didn't play well at times in that game, but they won the game. I just think that the way that team learned to deal with stages after that 3 game, like they were good against LSU, although they kind of melted down in the fourth quarter. Then I thought the stage we've talked about, maybe got a little too big for them in that 3-game losing streak. That Wake game, they did not handle it well at all. They were on their way to not handling it well against Florida, and they did. They beat Florida, Oklahoma. They handled the stage against Miami very, very well. The point being, you've got all this experience coming back, and you've got guys all over your football team that have played well in big moments with a lot of people watching. They're used to the stage. We could not say that about this team last year. The only time they played well, really, with people watching was the Notre Dame game, and that was a game they were down by 18 points and came back and tied it with a backup quarterback. Now they all have experience of playing well in big moments, and I think that should serve them well, and hopefully they don't have those ruts where they give up 28 straight to Wake or 27 straight to Clemson.
That was all part of the growing process for that team, though. They've come out the other side. They won 10 games. The only stinker they played last year was NC State. They were awful in that game, and they should be ashamed of themselves. There was a backup quarterback, couldn't throw a forward pass. I thought they were terrible for the entire first half against Wake Forest. The offense in particular was dreadful in that game. Obviously, they rallied in that game. But you were talking about a Wake Forest team that was veteran-laden with a 40-year-old quarterback who lit up the league forever. Listen, you look at the schedule now, Florida State's the veteran-laden team with the star quarterback. Florida State's the one that's come out the other side of those matchups and figured out that they can win, and they can win when a lot of pressure is on them. They should enter this season brimming with confidence. They've got talent. They have depth. I foresee not too many of those lulls that we're referencing this year. They were growing up last year, and they did so while winning 10 games, which is a huge plus. Now you got to go be dominant in a lot of these games. I think the schedule sets up for them to blow out 5 or 6 of these teams. Hell, they blew out 7 of them last year, and that team was still learning. So I think Florida State's got a lot of easy wins on this schedule. Yes, we'll see about LSU and Clemson. There's always one other game where maybe you don't have your best stuff or somebody's a little better than we thought they would be in the preseason. But I think, honestly, this schedule really sets up nicely for a veteran team with a ton of talent.
So Corey mentioned the Cheez-It Bowl. So did you guys – I know you guys were doing the live show at the time – but did you go back and see the videos that FSU released with each game's announcement? I wrote about it this morning. People can go to the story I wrote. I recapped them all, kind of get a breakdown of each video.
I saw the only one I saw was the Clemson game.
The Clemson one's awesome, but
really
but even the first one's great because it's Jordan walks into the equipment room. He goes to the equipment managers, and they're like, "Hey, Jordan, we've got your Cheez-It Bowl championship shirt." And it's a great T-shirt from the Cheez-It Bowl. He's like, "Oh, thanks, awesome." And he goes to his locker room and he just throws it in the back of the thing, kind of like, yeah, man, who cares? Like that night it was cool.
Yeah.
But man, this team has such bigger goals now than the Cheez-It. I just thought it was a real subtle way to kind of make that statement. And all the videos are really good. People should check them out. The one Corey mentions, the Clemson one, is awesome because they're in the quarterback meeting room and Jordan's sitting there looking at his laptop, and it's Jameis giving his speech before the Clemson game in 2013. And put a smile on your faces.
Yeah.
And so then as they're sitting there, they look up on the projection screen and they're all squinting, AJ Duffy, Jordan Tate, and they're all squinting to see the thing like Jameis used to squint, and then it comes into focus and it's the date of the game. It's really well done.
By the way, clearly there was a mandate from the league for these kinds of videos. Duke's done it, North Carolina, everybody did it in the league. And I would say that between now and, I don't know, a month from now, we will have watched all of the programs in what they produced. You saw the Duke video with the crab legs?
Yeah.
Jameis
is making a comeback. Is making a comeback in the ACC.
But I think it's fantastic. It's smart. Like, the league needs to do this. You've got to familiarize yourself, personalize yourself. You've got to become something. I mean, that's something somebody's going to watch and laugh, and for no other reason, they'll be paying attention to that game.
And I'll tell you something else. Like, as much as the football program has risen up and gotten so much better, think about where the FSU digital media was for the school 2 or 3 years ago with Martin Luther King, with the Nike glove on and all that. It was just a pretty awful product. And now they do great work there. They really do. Like, they've made apparently some incredible hires.
Well, it's a combination of two things. One is different departments. They're now working closer with, it used to be called Seminole Productions. Now it's Seminole Sports Cinema, but now they've got more of a role. Back then at that time, man, they were just basically using whoever they hired on their, social media team, whoever the team hired, some sports information. But now, yeah, man, they've got the big guns involved. And so, yeah, you're right, Jeff. It's awesome. I think that the whole league did it. I thought the Florida State staff did a tremendous job. And the players, man, like the personality, Johnny Wilson gets on a Harley and he's like acting like he's riding a Harley.
They have to love this.
Cool stuff. Was that for Wake?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
That's fun.
Funny.
That's fun. Yeah. Good job. Yeah, no, we're further along, to say the least, than we were. I used to cringe. I'd wake up every day like, did we do something really asinine today? Okay, good. The nation won't be making fun of us today. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment. Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse?
Just a slow burn.
Slow little burn.
This thing just finished the pinking. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay,
You know?
mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Thank you for calling the Medicare Help Desk. How can we help you?
Can you help me choose the right coverage for myself and my wife?
We sure can. We can help you choose from Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, or standalone prescription drug plans from over 30 different insurance carriers.
How much does it cost? We have a fixed income and can't afford extra expenses.
At the Medicare Help Desk, the consultation is completely free. We are here to help.
Thank you, Medicare Help Desk.
Hi, this is Justin Colvin, founder of the Medicare Help Desk. In my 17 years of experience, I routinely speak to seniors who are overwhelmed by the multitude of coverage options available to them. That's why I created the Medicare Help Desk, a place for you to get clear answers to all your questions and make sense of all the confusion. I've helped thousands of clients, and I live right here in Tallahassee with my family. I am active in my church and wish to help and serve my community. If you need help navigating the Medicare landscape, I'm easy to find. Just visit the MedicareHelpDesk.com. That's the MedicareHelpDesk.com.
Let me tell you what T-Spark stands for. It stands for strength, commitment, teamwork, and heart. We don't ever quit until we've got nothing left to give. Our team is unstoppable. Want a guaranteed win? Call T-Spark Enterprises for your next roofing or construction project. We conquer all peaks. TSparkConstruction.com. License number CCC 1331204.
I had a nighttime routine for my frequent heartburn. I would drink milk. I would sleep upright with more pillows. But that painful burning stayed. So I made Prilosec OTC part of my morning routine. With just one pill each morning, Prilosec OTC prevents excess acid production, blocking heartburn day and night. Now I have a new nighttime routine. I call it sleeping.
One pill a day, 24 hours, zero heartburn. With Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
As a Walgreens pharmacist, I talk with people all the time about little tips and tricks for filling their Medicare prescriptions, like taking advantage of Walgreens 90-day refills to save them a trip, or using Refill by Scan, which is super easy and right on your phone. And for anybody worried about prescription costs, I say, hey, we got you with low-cost copays on many medications.
Let's talk about making things easier. Walgreens is here. Fill your way and save at walgreens.com/Medicare. See pharmacists for restrictions and exclusions.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Seminole Headlines 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Aftermath of the schedule, if you will. A lot of discussion about that. Next hour, of course, headliner questions. Was there anything, I don't know, maybe putting you guys on the spot, big picture, and we'll go back through it today and throughout the rest of the week because obviously we have a lot of other things going on. One of the reasons we had to record today, baseball player interviews and coaches and all that good stuff. But was there anything that stood out about the ACC scheduling that didn't involve Florida State that you thought interesting? For example, I just saw where Louisville basically avoids every good team in the ACC. I don't know if you saw it, the way this fell. They don't play Florida State. They don't play Clemson. They don't play like anybody. It's insane.
No, I mean, I actually hadn't gone through them all. I don't know if Corey has, but I mostly looked at Florida State and Clemson and just trying to see if the big question I had was whether or not Florida State got done wrong, because even FSU didn't know for sure. You know, people I talked to in the program who they knew what Florida State's schedule was going to look like, but they didn't know how everybody else's schedule was going to play out. So that was one of the big things, just like we all do as media or fans, is look to see who you play around your opponents. Yeah. You know, the FSU staff was doing that last night as well. And I think overall, I think they felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, especially when you look at the prior opponents, and nobody gets really a break before they play Florida State. Like we talked about, no bye. You have to go to Pitt. Well, the week before, Pitt's playing Notre Dame. So again, they did not do FSU wrong at all with how that's set up. There aren't any there like they used to. Remember, it used to be like 2 or 3 teams would have buys before playing Florida State, and they'd get a bye on the Saturday before a Thursday night game, and Florida State would have to play that Saturday. Just dumb stuff that you don't do to your marquee program.
Do you remember Alabama getting screwed by the SEC a few years back, where every team that played Alabama had a bye the week before, and the game ended up being at night when they hosted it? So there was always a home night game coming off of a bye. And Nick Saban, after like the third one of these, was like, guys, what the hell are we doing around here? All we do is hold the mantle for the SEC every year, and I'm getting bent over every week on the road in the SEC off of a bye. I remember cracking up about that. He wasn't wrong. I was like, you're right. This is crazy.
Yeah, they're trying to make it more fair for the other schools. It's like, that's not how this should work.
No. Yeah.
They the one concern I definitely heard from some people, and I get it, is having the bye in September is not ideal for sure. But I think it's also important to remember, and I wrote about this in the takeaways I put up on the site. You have a good month of contact before the season even starts. So it's not like every team is just like spry and totally fresh on game 1, and then game 4 you're still feeling great. By the 4th or 5th week, you've been playing football for a good 2 months. So it's not, you'd rather have it in the middle of the season, but I think you'd much rather have it in where it is now as opposed to like week 9, which happened. I remember when Jimbo was here one year, Florida State played 8 or 9 games plus your whole preseason camp before you ever got a break.
There's a couple of things to think about with this, and I think coaches could bitch either way, so can fans. It's very difficult. You pointed that out, Ira. Coaches now have tougher decisions than ever before. There was one way of coaching when I grew up. I'm old. You hit every day. That's how this worked. Everybody hit, and they beat the hell out of each other, and that was football. And we did goal line for an hour at the end of practice.
And you weren't allowed water? You didn't have water?
No water. Oh, water was incentivized, Corey.
Yeah.
This was the thing. Like, if you finish this drill the way I want you to finish this drill, then maybe you get a sip of water. Right. Junction Boys style stuff lasted for 40 years. Got it. Now, that obviously is antiquated and not a good way of thinking. I do think, though, that it is a balancing act for coaches when you have an LSU and a Clemson on the horizon for 2 games in your first 4 that are going to be extremely physical, violent, fast. How much, and I'm curious, it'll be interesting to see Mike Norvell. He is so organized, right? Everything he does, there's a purpose to all of this. I'm supposed to sit down with him next week with an interview for Warchant.com, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to ask him this question because I'm kind of curious. How does he gauge contact in the weeks leading up to the start of the season? Because you can argue, and some coaches do, that when you're playing the most experienced and fastest and most athletic teams early in a season, you've got to be ready to be violent. And that only comes from hitting. You can't do that. You can't replicate something that you haven't been doing. So you have to be able to hit in practice while also pulling back a little bit, knowing how physical those games. It's just tough, man. That's a balancing act, and I'm curious to see what he does because you can't go through camp and not hit, especially if you're going to be playing LSU and Clemson within the first 4 weeks of the season.
Also ask him if he knows just how handsome he is. Like if there's, I mean, don't save that for the end. I mean, you don't lead with that, obviously, but
so
I always wonder if really good-looking people understand objectively they're good looking. They must.
Well, Corey, you and I just give each other the nod when we walk into the room.
That's a good point. Like, yeah, you look good today. Yeah, why do you have to say it? You're right. Like, yeah, just a nod.
But Norvell has the handicap of having hair, and that's so you guys can't.
Well, that's a good.
That's got to be a challenge for him.
That's true. Yeah,
that's true. It's funny though, man. Like you say that, and I agree. And if you talk to old-time football coaches, they will all lament the fact that there's not hitting in practice anymore.
It's soft. I actually get a little uncomfortable watching how soft practices are.
But here's the great thing. That all stems from the NFL. It's the NFLPA that mandated that. They're like, look, we're not hitting every day anymore. But what's amazing is that product is better than it's ever been. Like those defenses are unbelievable. And it's not like, back in the day when we were growing up were playing. I mean, obviously they're bigger, stronger, faster now, but it's not like it's hurt the product. The product, I think, is as good as it's ever been.
Yeah, there's always been an argument, and this existed back when I played and people I knew who played at a much higher level than me. The argument is that by the time you get to the pros, you know how to tackle. I don't have to teach you how to tackle. If you're a professional football player, you know how to tackle. You wouldn't have gotten here. Your film would have said you couldn't tackle. So I know you can tackle. So they shouldn't be hitting as much because they're the creme de la creme of players. They're the best athletes in the world. They're 250 pounds running 4.4. I don't need you hitting me every day. This isn't going to work out. Whereas in college, you're still developing a lot of guys, like especially freshmen and sophomore. They got to hit. They're getting bigger and stronger. It's just a weird deal. But I think especially when you're going to play 2 violent games early in the season, you've got to be ready to go. Now, you can take some downtime when you're playing Duke and Wake and teams like that. No offense to those teams. Not saying they don't have guys that can hit you. But the speed and the violence is not the same as it will be for LSU and as it will be for Clemson. It's just interesting to see how he gauges that and what he'll do. I think he's done a good job. Those practices are not violent to me. I think, those guys have got to be pretty happy.
I think
some of a 51-year-old man,
But I think that's college football. I mean, I think that's how it is everywhere now. But the other thing I would say, though, is think back to last season. I thought in the vast majority of the big games, I thought LSU for sure. Florida State was the more physical team in a lot of the games they played. An exception, though, I think, was Wake Forest, oddly enough. I thought Wake Forest was more physical than Florida State.
Too.
For whatever reason.
So
they had
offense.
38-year-olds that were left over from COVID. It's
Yeah.
insane. The whole team was 30-plus-year-old guys running around just dominating. It was
grad
frustrating.
assistants. Yeah, and that offense, too, was just so bizarre. But, yeah, their defense, I thought, kind of took it. I think Florida State only ran for 120 yards in that game. It was just a bad game all around for Florida State.
Yeah, and I understand to some degree FSU's defensive performance, the fact that, you didn't have Fabian Lovett and Robert Cooper, by the way, was still out. By the way, Big Coop, I ran into him the other day, and he's got his arm in a sling. So whatever was plaguing him throughout the season, he got cleaned up after the season. He says he will be available to do his pro day workouts. I don't think it was a major surgery, but he had something done, and he'll be able to do the pre-draft workouts and pro day. We all love Robert Cooper, so we hope things go well for him. But a little, proof that what we thought during the season was that he wasn't close to 100%.
Do you like that they're starting with LSU? And I bring this up because of the defensive line. Would it be advantageous for another Duquesne to roll in here? Because guys like Braden Fisk, these guys that can play, or we assume can play, these transfers, but they have not played in games like this. I just talked about how all these guys are used to big stages. Jaheim Bell obviously has. But a guy like Braden Fisk hasn't. I don't know what Western Michigan's biggest crowd was, but it wasn't Orlando against LSU on national TV. So just getting used to being a Florida State player, would it matter at all? And also like a practice to help, almost like a scrimmage to help get used to the physicality of Florida State football.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I don't know what Jeff thinks. I think it's marginal. I mean, maybe it would be a little bit better. But I think a guy at that level, and you talked to him. You were there when we talked to him last week. I mean, that dude is an impressive. Again, we've talked about all these transfers: Casey Roddick and Braden Fisk and Keandre Jones from Auburn. They're all very impressive, experienced veteran players. I just think those guys are going to be. You mentioned Jaheim Bell too. I just think the one guy I'd wonder about is Kyle Morlock. I mean, that guy went from playing in Division II games in Georgia to that stage. I don't know if I'm dialing up a lot of throws to Kyle Morlock early in that game. Might let him get used to it, but the rest of them I think will be all right.
Yeah, and you're going to learn about these guys in camp. I mean, you're going to see with Kyle. I mean, Kyle Morlock's speed and the violence of a scrimmage at Florida State, for example, we'll find out how you handle that, because it's a huge step up whether you're playing LSU or if in the case of Kyle Morlock you're playing FSU's defense in a scrimmage. It's still speed, it's still violence, it's still a huge step up. They'll have those in the stadium before they play LSU. As we all know, the lights will turn on. It'll be a big deal. They'll find out whether or not he can handle that, or if it's a little much for him early on. So I don't worry about it. And I don't worry about Fisk either. It'd be different if he was out on an island like a corner. Right. Yeah. And taking that step up against elite receivers. This is the defensive line, man. The big uglies just get after each other. That's about sheer strength and toughness. And I think he probably has that, or they wouldn't have invited him in. So I don't worry about it. And I'm actually excited they're playing LSU early again this year. We saw LSU get a lot better as the year went on. They'll be ready to play. Florida State got a lot better as the year went on. But I like the way Mike has his teams ready to play in these moments. So
do you guys think that LSU is going to have a QB controversy / competition, like a real one? I mean, the way that kid came in and threw against Georgia, and then they kind of went back and forth in the bowl game. I think there's a chance they're playing two quarterbacks. Not that we should talk about it, break down a game that's 8 months from now, but I was curious about that, and maybe that's another good time to play LSU as the first game of the year because of that.
And Florida State has the better quarterback, no matter who they're starting at quarterback at LSU. So that's FSU's got the better situation right off the bat. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in just a moment.
We understand how important it is to have transportation you can rely on. So no matter what the road ahead brings, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for over 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise.
I'm Andy Cohen with Florida Farm Bureau Insurance. Please call me at 850-671-FARM.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Hey, Greg Tish here along with Matty Rowe. And you can listen to us Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Real Talk 93.3. Matt, we give away a couple things each week.
Just a few.
We've got the Florida Farm Bureau Insurance Wheel of Food. We have Give Me a Second, where we play a second of a song and you guess that song. And we also play FLA or Nay. We have a lot of fun Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on
The Greg Tish Show.
Think that's enough?
We can talk about our feelings.
There's a lot.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. only on Real Talk 93.3.
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
One thing I found refreshing and exciting is that every year when the schedule comes out, people are pretty excited because it's a chance for everybody to reconnect, talk about the games they're going to go to with their friends or their families. By the way, boys, just so you know, your surrogate father, my real father, will be attending the Pitt game. So we're all going to the Pitt game.
Nice.
Okay. Nice.
So we'll all be up there having a cold one together, once again up in Pittsburgh, enjoying it. Last time it was 10 years ago for the Jameis game. Went to the Pirates game. Corey, you and I are in that picture with my dad at the Pirates game. There's that one. So, yeah, we got a chance to get together again. Let's group together.
Well, maybe we can get Gene to get us an Airbnb. And then in the mornings, like
have breakfast with Pops.
Corey and I and Pops can sit on the front porch, maybe read the paper.
Have a cup of coffee.
Just sit at the kitchen table and have a talk. Like just while Jeff's whipping up eggs. We're talking about life.
I would do that for you guys. And by the way, I would want to make it old school. We would buy a newspaper and go through the box scores.
Oh, nice. Good. Yeah.
Dude, they don't run box scores in newspapers anymore.
Are there no more box scores?
They're printed like 2 days earlier, dude. That ain't happening anymore.
Man, an entire generation of kids have missed out on the joy of racing to the breakfast table before school and looking up box scores and finding out who really did win that West Coast game between the Angels and the Twins that I have no idea who won because we didn't have Sports Center back then.
Now I feel bad for them because now they can just get on their phone and watch the highlights of the game when they get up. They don't get the box score like we did. That was.
You feel bad for them for that?
That was a joke. Yeah, like Brady knows everything that's happened before I do because he's seen the highlights or he's seen it on Instagram.
I will say this. There is an acquired knowledge that takes place over a long stretch of time when you're forced to scour box scores every morning. Like you begin to see who's consistent, who's not in a way that you wouldn't with just a highlight.
And some little morsels you might find.
Little tidbits here. Yeah. Who moves the runner over, Corey? Who moves the runner over? They ain't showing that highlight.
Well, they're not showing it in a box score either. They don't have a box score that says move runners over.
You can figure it out with the sacks. But the other thing, I remember when they got rid of the game-winning RBI stat, I was like, I like the game-winning RBI stat, even though it was stupid. I also remember being amazed. This is funny. This is a little quick box score deviation from the schedule talk, guys. One of the things that I remember as a kid, and I've always hung on to it, is there was a stretch where Rod Carew got a hit every day for 100 years. And he had to have doubled DiMaggio's streak. It just wasn't recorded. I swear to God, I would get into every morning. I'd be like, Rod Carew with 2 more hits. Jeez, this Rod Carew. I would sit around and watch This Week in Baseball. Twin Notes, Mel Allen.
Yeah. And I would sit around and watch This Week in Baseball with Mel Allen and just listen to him talk about Rod Carew because I could never see him play. Yeah. I couldn't wait to see Rod Carew play, this figment of my imagination that goes 2 for 4 every night.
my last old man comment before we lose all the listeners under 40. So when the National came out, I know you guys read the National too when it came out. And for people that don't know, if you're below 40 or whatever, and you don't know what the National was, think of it as somebody tried to put the internet, all the sports from the internet, in a newspaper every day. Because it literally, you go out to the box and it would be, I don't know, it sent like 300 pages.
It was awesome.
But the box scores was the best part because they had the like in-depth extended box scores for every game, dude. It was just pages and pages.
Play-by-play, the play-by-play of the box score.
It was unbelievable, man. So
the last of the box score mentions is how I learned that Emmitt Smith was a god at Pensacola Escambia was box scores. Because I knew I was going to be going to Lakewood High School. My brother had gone to Lakewood High School, and so I was following his team. While he's 4 years older than me, so I would watch him play, and then on Saturday mornings I'd want to see what the other teams in the state did, and whether it was too late to get the game or not. You were trying to find, and I would see what Naples did and what the teams down in Miami did. But man, this Emmitt Smith at Pensacola Escambia just rushes for 300 yards every night. This is ridiculous. I'd never even heard of him. And then when he announced he was going to Florida, I was devastated. I was like, no, why are you going to Florida? And then it was artificial turf back then too, so he looked it was insane. But yeah, so box scores.
He ended up having a good career, right? He wasn't just a high school wonder. Okay, not like Marquette.
Fully realized 5-star, went on to have a great college and pro career, I'd say.
Didn't win much at Florida though. Didn't win much at Florida when he was there.
Didn't have much of a quarterback and a lot of coaching issues. But speaking of him and the Cowboys though, like I'm just thinking of him with the Cowboys. It feels like lately there's been a lot of, I don't know, just Cowboys history stuff. Like Michael Irvin, I heard him on a podcast the other day, and I just saw something with Barry Switzer, and it's kind of amazing that they didn't even win more than I think I heard Dion talking about this as well. I mean, that team was unbelievable.
Didn't they win 3 Super Bowls?
Yeah, man, but they could have won probably a couple more.
3 and 4 years. If Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones hadn't
gotten
they would have kept winning. There was no salary cap for one thing, and he could just spend $1 billion on every good player under the sun. And they had Pro Bowlers and Hall of Famers at every position, quite literally. So, I mean, Darrell Johnson was the fullback, Hall of Famer. Emmitt Smith was the tailback, Hall of Famer. Troy Aikman was the quarterback, Hall of Famer. Michael Irvin was the star receiver,
all those
Hall
linemen,
of Famer. He went down the list. That entire offensive line, Hall of Fame, it was insane. So. Yeah, them in San Francisco had those epic wars where they both their owners just threw gobs of money in a non-salary cap league. I remember when the NFL went to the salary cap thinking, well, this is the ruination of the sport. Nobody's going to have any backups. What do you do? And it's actually kind of probably saved the sport in a lot of ways because your team can be 2-15 these days, 17-game schedule, and you could go to the playoffs the next year in a salary cap league. It can happen.
I mean, we just watched the Bengals in the AFC Championship game a year after going to the Super. I mean, it's amazing that franchise is relevant again.
Yeah. Joe Burrow. Him and Chase. That's it. There you go.
Well, their defense is good too, though. Like it
is this year. It is this year.
That's kind of what bringing it back to college football. That's what the portal can do, right? Like it makes. I know people think the rich are getting richer, but I think the college football, the transfer portal has made it where you can get better really quick. I mean, I don't think that. I know that. That's a no duh comment. But I think it's making it more like the NFL, where there is going to be more parity. And we look at this schedule and say, yeah, Florida State's better than all these teams. Well, we don't really know in January what these teams are yet. We have a good idea what Florida State is. They have a lot of really good players that are coming back. But for all we know, Pitt might have a couple really good transfers. They might be a more experienced team than we think. We just have no idea right now, but we do know there's a chance that everybody on the schedule is better than we think they're going to be. Every single one, because you don't know, because I think that's what the portal gives you, right? It really does give you parity.
Let me ask you guys this. So at lunch yesterday that you guys missed, unfortunately, with Ben, he actually had a headliner's question. And I feel it's better to ask it now so I don't forget about it during hour 2 when Jeff's rifling through all the Twitter questions and occasional Facebook question. So this was his premise. Is Mike Norvell, we talk about how, man, what a raw deal that coaching staff got in year 1 with coming in after the mess of Willie and Jimbo and then COVID year and everything else. Are they better off today having had that happen, but having the use of the portal and everything else, and Jordan Travis, those guys getting the extra year? So Jordan Travis and Fabian Lovett and all these guys who can be super seniors are here now? or would they have been better off if they had a normal first year and could have got some momentum going early? It's a good question.
It's a really good question. The only thing I'd say is we can't know that. I know,
but it's just a fun exercise because Jordan wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the COVID year. Jordan would be. I don't think Fabian Levitt would have eligibility. There's a bunch of guys. Braden Fisk wouldn't have eligibility. There's a bunch of guys on this team.
The reason I'm inclined to say that they're better off, and we couldn't have known they would be, that they're better off now than they would have been, is partly because of the transfer portal, which we didn't know what this was going to be and their usage of it. But because they did not assemble a staff, he did not assemble a staff that had connections to Florida high schools and great relationships, they would not have been able to utilize the new car smell to the same degree some coaching staffs have when they've entered into the state of Florida and brought in a haul of 5-star kids just because of the excitement around first-year coaches. So
you would have got some of it, but maybe not as much as
you normally would, right? And so therefore, it may not, because I would argue that yes, you wouldn't have had Jordan Travis, but maybe you would have signed a 5-star quarterback if you would have been able to hit the ground running and recruiting in the high schools, but you couldn't. So
you probably wouldn't have been 5-7 in year 2.
That's
you probably would have had a better year there. So it's just an interesting exercise.
It's a tough call, but and hey, listen, the way they've utilized it better than anybody in the country. I mean, there's only a couple other teams in the conversation about the usage of the portal the way that Florida State has. This is acknowledged beyond Tallahassee. People sit back and watch the way that this staff and Mike Norvell in particular has utilized it, and they're envious. I love hearing the anger. They're like, well, what's Florida State? This is ridiculous. People will just push back because
it's like it used to be in the 90s with high school recruiting.
Right.
Like, what is Florida State selling these kids? Why do all these All-Americans want to go to Florida State when they're not going to play? You're getting that same kind of incredulity about why in the world is Florida State just killing it in the portal? Like they're beating out Notre Dame for a Western Michigan kid. What is going on?
Right.
Corey, I don't know if it's the glasses or what, but you nailed that word.
Well, he was nervous about it. You could tell there was a minimal stutter at the beginning because he wasn't sure he was using the word properly. But I'm so proud of him.
No. I knew I was using the word properly. I didn't know if I was going to pronounce it correctly. Incredulity. You want to say incredulous, you want to go that route.
You can say you were incredulous, but you went with the root word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, guys, it is the glasses. Also, I just start thinking about Norvell. It just the brain works a little better. You know what I mean? Jeff, you can understand. It's early in the morning. I got to get something going. I got to get the juices flowing a little bit.
Jeff, can you make him stop?
Iris curled into the fetal
make
position.
Him stop.
You brought it up,
getting
Ira.
a little excessive.
Well, yeah.
You're going to make him uncomfortable.
I know.
Mike's going to be like, yes, Corey.
Yeah. He's not. Yeah, but it probably gets back to him. But again, this isn't. I'm not saying I'm not attracted to him. I'm just saying he's an attractive guy. There's a difference.
Keep saying it though. Keep saying it.
I know. Either way.
Hey, it's okay. He's secure in his masculinity. I'm looking forward to headliner questions, but they're not coming for 2 more minutes, guys. So I don't know how you want to round out the hour if we're being honest.
Hey, we could talk about basketball, guys. We could talk about basketball.
We could.
I don't want to talk about that nightmare. And yesterday I brought it up to Corey just because I was so pissed. I'm still pissed off. Guys, it's one thing to stink. It's another thing to just butcher the end of games like we sometimes do, and especially the other night. They butchered that game.
Yeah, but who cares? My point was, who cares? They're 8-14, 7-15. It doesn't matter.
No,
at least it was encouraging that they got down 16-2.
I don't want to hear that.
And didn't just lay down like they did on Tuesday.
That's ridiculous. Ira had to explain the ending of the game. That bothers me to no end.
Well, that was not. Yes.
That was a little uncomfortable.
Yes, it was.
A buddy of mine texted me yesterday or the day after the game and was like, so I saw the last play. Explain to me why they let that kid get a free run to the basket. And I was like, dude, you need to go back 6 seconds. There's a whole lot of other questions you got to ask before you even get to that play.
The foul with 9.2, all of it.
It was bad.
The inbounds to the wrong guy, all of it. I mean, what?
Not having a timeout left.
Well, because you used one off of Clemson's timeout. What are we doing?
To decide to foul.
You took the timeout to decide to foul with 9 seconds. Yeah, no, the last 10, 12 seconds.
All three of us love the man. We love him. That was a blank show. That's the first time this year I've been that kind of angry. That was absurd.
And I'm the big picture guy, and I agree with what Corey's saying, so I'm with him on it. But it is unfortunate that the kids did play as hard as you're talking about to get back in it, and then you just kind of gave it to them. I mean, it was.
But at least it happened in this season, and not when you're actually you're like number 9 in the country and you blew a game like that. They did blow the game. They were not. That was not a great coaching job the last 15 seconds. Plus, Clemson ain't missing free throws apparently.
Hour number 2 forthcoming. Let's go.
But that's what made the decision so bad about fouling is because they're a better free throw shooting than you are.
I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Headliner questions. Stay with. And you or someone you know is active military, a veteran, police officer, firefighter, nurse, or a teacher, turn up the volume and listen to this. My friend Shannon with Legendary Home Loans has a hometown hero loan program designed to make a difference to those who make a difference. When it's time to buy a new home, he will waive all lender fees for all hometown heroes. That's a $1,600 value right out of the gate. Also, if you decide to use their preferred title company for their closing, you'll be saving another $600. That's $2,200 in discounts right off the top. That's like 20 tanks of gas in your car. And today, more than ever, it's important to save as much money as you can, wherever you can. So if you or someone you know is active military, veteran, police officer, firefighter, nurse, or a school teacher and looking to buy a new home, choose Shannon Young, Legendary Home Loans, and ask about their Hometown Heroes program. Call 844-FSU-LOAN or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com. That's FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 2270146.
For many in the workforce, their goal is to climb the company ladder. Often the climb requires a move to another city, and that's especially true in our industry. I'm Jay of Paul's Termite and Pest Control. If you rise the ranks of our competitors, there's a good chance moving up means moving away. Why? Because they're not local companies. They're from places like Orlando, Atlanta, Salt Lake City, and even Europe. That's certainly not the case with our employees. We're a company that was founded in the Big Bend and remains locally owned. When Paul's Termite and Pest Control employees advance, they remain in the Tallahassee area. Don't trust the safety of your family and pets from disease-carrying pests or the structure of your biggest investment from termites to people who may be here today and gone tomorrow. Trust Paul's Termite and Pest Control, a company that has serviced thousands of our neighbors right here for over 50 years. Being local really does matter in our industry because local problems require local solutions. Paul's Termite and Pest Control are the Big Bend's local experts for the elimination of termites or any other pest. And a greener lawn too. Call Paul's. We'll get them all.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Many orthodontists in Tallahassee can straighten a smile, but at Birch Orthodontics, they're dedicated to providing the finest care possible. The experienced and friendly staff is trained in all of the latest techniques. So whether you need standard treatment like braces or Invisalign, or you have a more complicated case requiring extra attention, Birch Orthodontics is here for you. Set up your free consultation today by visiting birchorthodontics.com, BURCH orthodontics.com, or call 850-877-1692. At Birch Orthodontics, they create beautiful smiles that last a lifetime.
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Hour number 2, Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Headliner questions on the way. Dr. Birch, Birch Orthodontics. We love Birch Orthodontics. And, a successful trip last week to Birch. I'm there. I'm the guy. I'm there once a week. But it's not once a week, and I don't mean it to sound bad. We're just I got 2 boys. 2 of them are, Bryce is out of braces. They're just monitoring to make sure the retainer that we just got is working well. And then Clark is in braces, so he has regular checkups, which, by the way, those checkups, once you're on the plan, are free. They just go in there and make sure everything's going right. I'm not getting charged each time I go there. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, but I am there frequently.
And you act like you're going there for the kid. You're going there. You're choosing to go there because you want to talk to Dr. Birch and talk a little Florida State football. It's good times.
Last time I was there. She's in a really happy mood these days. She's in a good place, man. She seems to be like walking along, whistling, feeling good about things because Florida State's no longer the laughing stock of the conference. That's good.
Yeah, man. Nice. The first few years with my first older 2 kids, when they would go to the appointments, Florida State was doing well. Yeah, it was all cheery. Later on with the last one, were some rocky times, and maybe she wasn't always thrilled in the best frame of mind, but always did great work, always tremendous work at Virtual Orthodontics. And you should take your kids there, or you don't have to be a kid. You can be an adult and get a better smile. And they have all the latest technology and the Invisalign, all the multicolored braces. Is your kids, is Clark still changing them all the time?
No, he's still got the Christmas colors rocking, and I like it. I told him to keep it. I think it looks good.
It's like having the Christmas lights up year round. I like it. It's festive. Keep it up, Clark.
BirchOrthodontics.com is the website, and you can set up a free consultation. They've got payment plans, and they just do incredible work. And we kid around about all the other stuff, but really is it's a big investment if you're going to do braces for your kids or orthodontic work, and you should go to them because they do great work.
So I've got Ira, because you were so woefully late on posting these. You can't get mad at me today if I'm having to veer towards the Facebook questions, although there's not a bevy of those either. It is truly.
Well, we didn't give them a lot of time. It was like I actually did mine a little. I mean, I was much earlier than Ira. I mean, I was the early bird when it comes to Ira, but it was like mine was like 9:30 or something. I kind of forgot about it too.
All right, at least you owned up to it, because I'm trying to copy and paste all these onto a Word document so I don't have to keep looking away from the camera. Just put this right over here off to my right side. But I noticed we don't have a ton of them, but we're good. We got at least 30-something. Wilson wants to know if I'm mad that he mentioned I could die last week and that he and Corey look better bald. I'm not, Wilson. I'm not mad. I already wrote back to you when you Ira saw what I wrote back. I mean, my goodness, Wilson's vitriol in the moment was excessive.
What do you say?
So I forgot what we were talking about. Something about.
No, you posted
ages.
The picture of us at the downtown
that's right.
Get Down.
I did post a picture from the downtown Get Down, and somebody said, we were talking about age or whatever, and Jeff said, yeah, I checked, and I'm still alive. And Wilson goes, hey, the day's still young.
Oh, yeah.
And got a little dark there on Twitter.
I want to mention the picture. I love the picture. Boy, you were in a lost place, Corey.
I know.
I
blame Shanna. Don't you blame Shanna for what was going on there? Why would she let me go out like that?
You were 30 years old.
I was 34 years old, I think, or 30. Yeah.
And you're blaming Shanna.
Well, because
she was dressing you for school.
I mean, you got to look at some point. Somebody in your life has to be like, man, you got a nice shaped head. Why are you holding on to the hair that you have? Just shave it off.
So, Corey, I want to take responsibility.
I didn't shave it off for another 4 years.
I know. I want to take some responsibility, but I don't feel like it's completely my fault. Ira and you go back.
Yeah,
longer.
That's a good point. I had only known you really for like a year and a half.
I wasn't in a place where I could boldly pull you aside and say, Corey, you look like.
Right.
I couldn't do that.
Can we do that on the show now? Is Tom going to post the picture? I hope Tom don't. That wasn't an ask.
So I wasn't at a place where I could say that comfortably. Now, I would say that to you now.
Yeah, sure.
But, I can't do that then because we're not close enough yet.
We didn't have the history that we do now.
Right.
Like, yes, you could certainly tell me.
To be sure.
Like, I'll be honest, those dumb hats you wear, we don't like them.
Yeah.
You look like a clown.
Right,
Corey, Tom? Is that what we're doing?
It's different. It's different. He's talking to the 2012 Corey Clark.
Right.
He's not talking to 2023 Corey Clark.
Yeah, right.
You gotta
and Corey, I knew Corey's defense mechanisms would come up. I sensed he was like this a moment ago. I'm like, here comes something. He's gonna say he hates my shoes or something. I knew it was coming, but it's all right. Let it go. You moved on. And
in my defense, because it's getting Shane. First it went from Shanna that got blamed. Now Ira got blamed for not being a good enough fan or friend. Back in the day, Corey wore hats all the time. He was always wearing a cap. So you had the hair on the sides. You had the illusion that he had hair. So that was actually a better look than being bald.
Oh,
but unless you took the hat off. If you had the hat on, though, you looked like you had the locks. It was good.
Well, now you got it right. And luckily, society came around, too. We were ostracized early on, Corey, you and I, with our baldness. Right. Now people accept it, love it, embrace it. Hell, people clamor for Ira to shave his head every show.
Yeah,
there's the photo.
I'm showing it. So, Jeff, I mean, I don't remember. I always thought you were bald. You have real hair there.
I still have real hair, Corey. I just don't. This top portion up top there is a little thin.
But then you look at me.
What was going on?
I don't, because there's if you look at the top of the head, there's some hair there too that I left, and I just don't quite understand it.
This is the Zapruder film breakdown, but I got to tell you, Corey, good
I know.
God.
It doesn't make sense. Again, I blame Shanna, and I apologize to Shanna that she was married to that. Because look at what it is now. Look at the package now, gang.
All right, next question. And by the way, Wilson, we're not embittered. Sean writes, you can only have one in 2024, a national championship in football or a national championship in baseball.
Well,
I mean, is there a question?
Football. What? Yeah. Come on, Sean. Football.
Sean loves the baseball.
I know, but it's linked. Like if it was Mike Martin Sr. getting one, I would, and he's been here for 44 years, I'd be like, oh, okay, we'll sacrifice. We want him to win one. But it's Lincoln his second year.
I think it's a better question than you guys are giving him credit for, because
really?
as a Nole, I'm going to tell you now, it hurts my heart that Florida State hasn't won a national championship in baseball. They're a better program than half the teams that have.
Yeah, more than half, I bet.
And it pisses me off to no end.
Yeah,
and
I get it.
Here's the thing.
What?
If you come at it like this, I believe that Florida State's going to be an annual contender for the college football playoff under Mike Norvell starting from this point forward, that they are pretty much going to be in the hunt most years. And if you get to the college football playoff, you got a chance to win it all. I don't know, man. Baseball is so fickle and weird. You can be the best team in the country and get bounced in your own home regional. It happens all the time. It just happened last year to Tennessee by Link Jarrett. So I'm just saying, man.
Let me ask you this. Don't think about what it does for you. Think about the pain that it inflicts on the other fan bases, okay? When Florida won the national championship in baseball, it might have pissed you off that day, but it wasn't something that bothered you for months. But, man, if Florida State was another national championship in football,
yeah, it hurts them.
Think about the pain that in Gainesville and Miami they're going to be experiencing. So try to think of it from that perspective.
That's probably the better lens to look at. Plus, I've kind of gotten the impression here since I've been covering this sport that, like, if you win the national championship in baseball and you dogpile and everybody's excited, and then it's like a week later, you're like, huh?
Yes.
Right. I feel like it's
no offense, baseball guys. No offense, baseball guys.
And it's weird because I think that softball team that won it for Florida State is different. And maybe it would be with baseball because the softball team wasn't a national power like Alabama or Oklahoma. They kind of fought through all they did to win that and came out of nowhere. But I feel like that team is remembered fondly. And obviously you'd be remembered fondly if you won a college baseball championship. But I don't know that you reflect on it a lot. You win it, you move. Like, do Florida fans reflect on their national championship?
Some of them, I'm sure, do.
But I think
100.
But I think where Corey started, 2 years ago, we probably would have said Leonard Hamilton winning a national championship. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we would have said Mike Martin winning a national championship. Link is just getting started, man. He's a young man. I think we feel like, okay, there's not that emotional part.
I'm with you. I get that. First of all, we're not arguing which sport is vastly superior in terms of importance for the dollars and the popularity. Obviously, Florida State gains more, both financially and reputationally, if they win a national championship in football. Got it. Just personally, I've been waiting to see that baseball title for a long time, man, and it bothers me to no end. I'm with you a little bit there, Sean. I get it. All right, next up, Kevin. Care to share your favorite recipe? Register sausage. I told you this was in there. I'm going to give you one right now that, guys, we haven't shared yet.
And also, it's none of your business, Kevin.
If he wanted you to know, he'd invite you over for dinner, but he isn't.
I'm going to give you one right now in like a saucepan. Chop up that register sausage, whichever one you like the most, and a big stick of butter with garlic.
Really?
Buddy.
I think this is also on the Weight Watchers plan.
There's no such thing as bad fat. You can't. You just have to. You have to obviously watch your overall caloric intake. But there's no such thing as bad fat. You throw that butter in that pan, damn it. All great chefs do. And then you throw in the garlic and the salt and the butter. Oh, forget about it, man. It's good stuff.
I know you're not a huge steak guy anymore, Jeff, but do you guys ever, and I don't know if Corey makes steaks.
I've seared the steaks with.
In the frying pan in the butter? Man.
Of course.
Oh, man. That is.
Yes, cast iron, stick of butter, sear the baby on the outside, then you put it back in. Oh.
That's smoke up the whole house, but, man, it is unbelievable.
It is. Good on you, buddy.
Well, we don't advertise for any steak.
We could.
Companies. We should. Yeah, we should.
Any cattle ranchers out there?
If Syracuse and Pitt switched spots, would this schedule be perfect? Yeah.
Yeah, the 3 home games, man, that's a bit of a bummer. And maybe having to go to Pitt in November, weather could be an issue. Probably not, but could be. But yeah, other than that, I don't like the 3 home games in a row. And as you said earlier, like there's a lot of people that just aren't making 3 straight trips.
Yeah, they don't like it either, I'm sure, over there. And it's hard on. Hey, listen, if we're going to bring it back to us, because that's what we do. 3 straight Saturdays over there working is not ideal either. It's
a grind, Jeff.
But that people really will never fully appreciate.
Guys, I look over at Kim in the morning. I'm like, baby, you realize they're asking me to go cover a football game again and get paid for it?
But it's all day, Ira. It's all day.
It's a tough life we live.
You leave that house early in the morning with the sun coming up, and you're not coming back till 10 p.m.
It's like coal mining of this generation.
A little bit. I tell people that. That's interesting you bring that up. I've mentioned it before. I'm like, the health effects aren't quite as severe, but it feels like we're down.
That's really the only difference is the health factors.
If you listen to, if you catch a little wake up Warchant, there's a good chance you're going to hear Aslan or Corey lamenting hard work of a sports writer or a media person.
Hey, do not throw me into that.
Hey.
You co-host. I do not. I tell that. Yeah, it's the co-host. Don't say that. I'm always the one that's like, man, it's it ain't that hard.
All right, next one. I know you guys will discuss the schedule, but any thoughts on November ending with Miami and UF 2 of the 3 weeks, then possibly playing Clemson all within 4 weeks? Well, he adds in this that he noted Clemson has a tough schedule down the stretch too. If they didn't, that would be bothersome, but they do too. So you're all going to be coming out the other side a little ragged. And that's just all it is to play big-time football, man. If you're playing for conference championships, you're going to play a stretch where you're playing 2 out of the last 3 weeks. You're at least going to be playing somebody who's capable of running with you.
I didn't think about that, though. That's a good point about the last 4 weeks. If you get to the championship game, there's a very good chance the last 4 games of your schedule are Miami, North Alabama, Florida, and Clemson. That's a 3 out of 4.
Miami is akin to North Alabama, Corey.
Well, that's true.
Well, that was one thing I was going to say is it's actually it might be a kind of a gift that you get Miami that late because their season may be completely gone at that point. We'll see. Maybe it won't be. But based on recent
one
history,
of my friends was, Bill Hayes actually last night was like at Corner Pocket was like, oh, well, I'm glad we're playing them in November. They're always terrible in November.
Right.
And then that's a good point. Cashed it in by then.
Yeah.
And the other part of it, I think, and again, kind of related back to the topic of the early bye, is you do have some games in there that you'd like to think if Florida State's where they're at now, they're not going to be 4 quarter games, maybe. Some of those games in that middle stretch where they got the back-to-back home games. So maybe you can rest some guys reps, get some depth in those games going into that home stretch.
Michael writes, I actually thought it'd be good to play Clemson early while they're figuring out the system. Do you all agree? And Corey, when is Stephanie and company going to start a Norvell as hot club? Wasn't there supposed to be a wives or woman of war chant started a while back?
Yeah. Well, look, Stephanie's the only. She doesn't listen to this show much, but she is by far the most avid listener of the 3 of ours significant others.
Yeah.
The other 2 don't even realize there's
I don't think my wife has ever heard the show in the decade plus we've been doing it.
Yeah. Kim only has when people have made comments about things I've said that have got me in trouble.
Well, my wife doesn't even go back to check on the comments that people refer to her. Like, she works in the school system. Somebody will walk in and say, I love your husband's show. I listen to it all the time. But by the way, the other day he said something terrible about you. And she's like, oh, that's just,
Yeah.
She doesn't even get it.
That's a Tuesday. That's a Tuesday at our house.
But I think if you polled your wives, both of them would agree with Stephanie's take. I don't think it needs to be a club. I don't think we need to go that far. But I think there's just
that might be a little creepy.
Yeah, there's a lot of nodding going around.
I actually did ask my wife if she thought Norvell was hot. After last week's show, I came home and said, listen, this came up today. Corey's obsessed with Mike Norvell. Do you think he's as hot as Corey does? And she said, I don't know. I'd have to talk to Corey. As it turned out, we went out to dinner with you on Friday, you and Steph, and it didn't come up. It should have come up again. She should have asked you specifically. She had a moment.
Thanks for the invite, guys.
Well, it was last second.
It was last second. We knew we weren't invited to the Ben thing, so it was like we got to preemptively cut you to the quick.
Right. Good
yeah,
call.
but she did agree clearly. Well, I don't think we even talked about it. We should have, but yes, that's right. Mike Norvell hot. That would be great for the SEO score. Just Mike Norvell hot ? And then just a bunch of slideshows on the website.
Rodney wants to know, when is Ira taking Jeff and Corey to see Magic Mike's Last Dance? Maybe Warchant can provide a watch along. Anyone else tired of seeing that commercial yet? I have a question.
Commercial?
Is Magic Mike's Last Dance the one with Selma Hayek in it?
I don't know. Is that a movie? Is that is there a sequel coming out?
I don't know either, but there's some movie with Channing Tatum and Selma Hayek coming out in which there's like a prolonged sex scene.
You said that wrong.
Channing Tatum.
I don't know who that is.
Channing Tatum.
Oh, okay, there you go.
His first name is not Tanning.
I don't know who it is. My point is, this Channing guy is apparently, he's got the greatest acting gig of all time, which is a prolonged sex scene with Selma Hayek. And so of course people bombarded me on Twitter with this news. Is that what that movie is? I don't know.
Sounds like it.
I'm looking it up right now. It's released. Yeah, she is in it. Yep.
Okay, well, we can go.
It's released on February 10th. It's coming out February 10th.
We'll leave after that scene.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. What if we're invested in the story? I mean, it's a stripper down on his luck.
Feeling that it's riveting, huh?
Yeah. I did see the first one. I did not. I guess there was a second one too, but I did not watch that one. But it was supposed to be good. Like it don't make your jokes. Matthew McConaughey was supposed to be really good in it. I didn't quite realize, and I should have, that it was a lot of male bodies. The whole movie, which
kind of your thing. I mean,
shut up, Ira.
Lately, I mean, I'm just not there's anything wrong with that.
Ryan writes, gentlemen, why is Jackson getting less minutes than Worley? Why Baba not Ham's go-to center over Corrin? Nothing against Corrin or Worley, but we got a different level of player out there with Jackson and Baba over both of them.
Fair questions, especially with Baba. I don't understand why Baba wasn't in the game in the last 2.5 minutes.
Is she doing a European tour first, or is she starting in? Is she starting in the States?
In the States. It's domestic. I think it's domestic.
Because
Seminole Headlines 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Greta, Tallahassee.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you're at your best, you can do great things. Working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of yourself. Because when you feel empowered, you're more ready for life's challenges. BetterHelp is a great therapy option. It's flexible, affordable, entirely online, and it matches you with a licensed therapist. Let therapy help empower you. Visit betterhelp.com/energy to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/energy.
Hey Tallahassee, it's Sarah with Seminole Auto Glass. You're probably driving right now, which means you're surrounded by glass. Did you know that each piece is made differently? Your windshield is 2 sheets of glass with a thin plastic in between. This allows it to take an impact without going all the way through. Side and back glasses are typically tempered. This strengthening process is what allows them to be shattered in the event of emergency. Regardless of the glass or how it breaks, we can help. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass, proudly serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. Better call Seminole.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day.
But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
Many orthodontists in Tallahassee can straighten a smile, but at Birch Orthodontics, they're dedicated to providing the finest care possible. The experienced and friendly staff is trained in all of the latest techniques. So whether you need standard treatment like braces or Invisalign, or you have a more complicated case requiring extra attention, Birch Orthodontics is here for you. Set up your free consultation today by visiting birchorthodontics.com, BURCH orthodontics.com, or call 850-877-16. Orthodontics, they create beautiful smiles that last a lifetime.
It's time for Seminole Headlines, featuring Warchant.com's Jeff Cameron, managing editor Ira Schofel, and senior writer Corey Clark. Your weekly dose of all things FSU, pistols, and pies starts right now. Here's Jeff Cameron.
Next question, boys. September in Boston, writes Michael. Early November at Pittsburgh, or a potential top 10 matchup at Clemson. I can only make one game away this year. Which should I choose? Oh, okay. So he's looking at September in Boston, early November in Pittsburgh, or a potential top 10 matchup at Clemson. Boys?
One factor is if you've ever been to Boston or Pittsburgh.
Correct.
Those are both awesome cities.
So is
Clemson, though, depending on what you're looking for.
It does.
Yeah, most people compare. They usually talk about the great American metropolises, and Clemson's right. It's like
the cool thing about Clemson is it has the lake.
Right.
Well, I think Clemson's situated right between Pittsburgh and Boston, so it's a tough.
Yeah, correct.
I would just say this to Michael. Michael, I don't know if you're a history buff, but if you are, take your ass up to Boston. And you can walk all of that. It's incredible. And there are a lot of other reasons to go to Boston, but that's one of them. Now, if that's not your thing and you want to do something a little bit, I mean, there's a ton of museums in Pittsburgh that I would.
Hey, are you a big fan of steel? Do you like steel?
It's now the technology industry up there, buddy. Now Pittsburgh
I
is
would just
totally
think the
changed.
Museums would be all dedicated to steel work.
And chocolate and ketchup.
No, man, they've got incredible fine arts museums. I mean, they really some of the best museums in the country.
Unbelievable fine arts museums. They have several incredible museums up there. Listen, both those cities are wonderful cities.
And then ride the incline.
Which I've done on numerous occasions. Yes, good times. Hey, did you ever try to go to the restaurant right when you get to the top and it's off to the left-hand side?
We were kind of in a rush when we
did. Man, it's hard to get in there. People love that damn restaurant. I'm frustrated. You go on a Wednesday at noon, you can't get in there. It's nuts.
I think we might have stopped at an ice cream shop up there, maybe.
Yeah, you did.
I bought jeans and one of the gift shops.
Corey did buy jeans.
I didn't bring my clothes with me. I packed everything but my actual clothes, so I only had shorts to wear to the game, and I wasn't doing that, so I had to go buy. They were $90 jeans. I think they might have been women's jeans. Honestly, they were designed in a way where I convinced myself they were men's jeans, and they looked like men's jeans, but I'm not 100% sure.
You know what I've discovered, Corey? This brings up a point. I think on at least 10 different occasions you've shown up underdressed, freezing your ass off for something.
Oh, 10.
I mean. Yeah. What is it with you not grabbing a goddog jacket, man? What is
it's Shannon and Stephanie's fault. Shannon and Stephanie's fault.
Exactly. Why won't somebody take care of me? Please. I mean, how much ammo do you need? How much evidence do you need that I can't do it myself?
But you get out of the car sometimes. You're like shivering. I'm like, dude, we have jackets.
I usually have a bunch of clothes in my car.
He should just look at Stephanie and be like, do you not care about me?
Yeah, is this?
Or do you want me to get sick?
Is this my way? Is this your way of telling me it's over? You won't dress me anymore?
The one little thing I wanted to say real quick, all those videos that were great that I gave all the praise to FSU for doing. In the Pittsburgh one, if we could have got a 42 in there somewhere, just a little tip of the cap to Monk, it would have been cool. Because that trip, seeing him in Pittsburgh, his hometown, before that 2013 game, I mean, just his pride of Florida State being there and his hometown. It was really cool. Made that one nice little touch, but I'll be thinking about Monk when we go to Pitt.
And to answer the question, though, it sounded like Clemson was not even if it is a top 10 matchup, y'all aren't saying go to that one. And I think you could also say, well, you could always get to Charlotte and watch it again maybe in December.
Fair point.
If you only have one choice, take Boston or Pittsburgh.
Or if you're like somebody on the message boards complaining because I mentioned how cool the cities are, Boston and Pitt. He's like, yeah, but Boston Stadium stinks. I mean, if the college football experience is what you're looking for, obviously.
Then it's Clemson. Yeah. It's no contest.
That is fair. If you want to see a real football game with two top 10 teams and rabid fan bases,
real
and
fan
collegiate
bases,
experience, it's the Clemson game. He's from Park City, Utah. He said cold doesn't bother him either way, which good because you're also a man. So no matter where you're from, you shouldn't be bothered by the cold. Secondly, I would suggest that Boston historically has more to offer. If it's museums, I think Pittsburgh's got more to offer. But look, man, if you just want to see a great college football game, go to that Clemson game up there.
Yeah. Either of those two other trips, the least fun you're going to have is those 3 or 4 hours of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's fair. What is the over-under on – oh, well, Christopher, here you go. I'm reading it. I think this was the test. What is the over-under on Jeff Cameron Show reading tweets versus Facebook questions? I'll have you know that I have plowed through these Twitter questions. Did you set him up to do that, Ira? Did you have him post that there?
They know you're prejudiced against Twitter, and so they're just throwing it out.
But I also hate Facebook.
Truth to power from the Twitter.
What should we go to Snapchat next or?
I was thinking, when did we start doing questions? Because it wasn't right off the bat, right?
It was Shanna's idea, probably 3 or 4 years in. She's like, you should have an avenue where they can ask you questions. I would say probably 2012 is when we started. So a couple years in, I think.
And then we quickly realized that they had better material than us. But at the time, so the first 2 years, we were just blabbing
for 2 hours. Yeah, it's crazy. Can you imagine?
We were all younger then, guys. We
had hair. We had glorious hair.
Yeah, we could do anything we wanted back then. We could have talked for 4 hours. Mike writes, what's more last minute and disappointing? What's more last minute and disappointing than Ira posting the headliner questions at 12 a.m. the day of, or Randy Shannon getting a commitment from the 1,830th ranked player at the end of January?
It is funny. So I saw that they got a commitment from this kid. And I just went to the On3 rankings and clicked linebacker and just started scrolling the list. And I was like, okay, maybe he doesn't play linebacker. So I went back and checked. No, he says linebacker. So I went and I kept scrolling and I did finally find him. I mean, he decommitted from North Texas.
The imagination of that question is so good.
Yeah.
Bravo, sir.
Well, I saw, and it's funny because the people that On3, our network, they do their own versions of commitment stories, like their staff does. And in their story, it's just like carbon copy. They are instructed to anytime they mention a player, they mention their full number ranking. Like so it says something like, he is the 1,836th player in the class. All right, here's the thing. None of us know whether or not Dylan Brown Turner can play.
What's it, DBT? I hope he has a great career.
I would encourage you, though, if you get a chance to read the Q&A Michael did. It's up on the site right now. You can go check it out at warchant.com. Still have the $30 deal through August if you're not a subscriber. He asked the kid about that, about like what fans were saying and some of that stuff. And the kid's pretty mature, and he's very like what you would hope he says is like, look, man, I don't care about my star rating. I know who I am. I know what I can do. I know I can run. I know I can play. The coaches know I can play. So nothing else really matters. And I thought, it's a good response. And I mean, that's all he probably can say at this point, other than
I was going to say, if I was ranked 1,836th, I wouldn't care about it either. I'd be like, who cares? I'm at least the top 1,800.
We'll see how it works out.
Oh, Mike, I really love your question. Well done. I have another one here that I lost it. Damn it, man. This was good. Oh, here we go. It's a different one. Kevin writes, gentlemen, I could have made it to every FSU baseball opening day, or I have made it to every FSU baseball opening day for 20 years, including the COVID year. Unfortunately, when planning out my wedding this year, I was relieved I convinced my soon-to-be wife not to get married in the fall. I failed to realize it was the same weekend as opening day. and the rehearsal dinner is at the exact same time as the opener. My question is, do I break tradition and skip the game completely, or do I go for a few minutes of batting practice and still have that count as a streak that is alive?
Let me ask you this, Kevin. In this streak that you've had, has it ever ended with Florida State winning a national championship that year?
So he might be the reason they win it all. They finally broke the Kevin curse.
Break the streak, Kevin. Like, change it up a little bit.
Kevin's the freaking problem.
Yeah, change it up. Do not show up at all. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about the game on opening or the opener or the whatever. I guess he's probably getting married that Saturday. Don't even pay attention. Don't even open up a box score. Don't even don't rush to your newspaper and crack open it and see the box score of the game. Just enjoy the wedding.
I do feel like if you get in the stadium at some point that day, if it really means that much to you and you don't think, and you're not concerned that Corey's right and you've been the reason Mike Martin Sr. did not win a national championship, then you could probably sneak in early in the day. I will say this, because we saw during the COVID years, there's a lot of Florida State fans that have streaks going back 30, 40 years of going to every FSU game or every there's some incredible streaks out there. And one of them, a friend of ours, he couldn't get tickets during one of those COVID years. I think it was North Carolina maybe, where they really shut down. They weren't giving tickets to anybody.
Right.
And he was like, man, is there any way I could get a press pass to just walk in for like a minute, see the field, and I'll walk back out? And I was like, dude, I don't know if that counts, but we, we'll see what we can do. But I think he did make it in.
Did you get him to pass, Ira?
I did not, but I think he got in somehow. But the idea, my man is driving from Florida to North Carolina just to keep that streak going by sneaking in for 1 second. So if he could do that, you can go catch some batting practice.
No, don't. Again, your streak has not done anything for the good of the program.
Some might think it has nothing to do with it, but that's not Corey.
It's baseball, man. Baseball's a very superstitious sport. It's a very streaky sport.
It's a hell of a thing. Here we go. I think you guys will like this. 2016 to 2021 was a bender that ended up with this team behind a dumpster being pelted by Monte Cristos. 2022 was the training montage where steel sharpened steel and gray hoodies were sold. After seeing this schedule, could 2023 be the Revenge Tour Part 2? Hashtag average ass headliner.
The original Revenge Tour was pretty fun.
Yeah, I dubbed that year a Revenge Tour. We actually ended up having 2 years of a Revenge Tour. I don't know that this is the Revenge Tour. The 2013 was like unholy what we did to teams that year. I mean, that's all I'll say. It was not for the faint of heart. I don't think this team is in a position to do those kinds of things to people on a regular basis. I think they're good, and they may win some games lopsidedly like they did this year, but, man, are they good enough to walk in and beat people 70-10?
Yeah. They won every ACC game that year by at least 3 touchdowns. Most were by 6 touchdowns. I mean, they were
only just moments, too, where you actually feared for the other team.
Yeah, I mean, think about that Wake Forest game. They beat them 59-3. Wake Forest threw like 7 interceptions. Like, kid didn't want to play football anymore. Like, then the next week they beat Syracuse 59-3 or whatever. I mean, they just destroyed folks.
That Syracuse game, that's when the kid got hurt in the back of the end zone. There was all kinds of stuff happening where you would watch teams line up on kickoff, because you remember Jimbo would let all of his studs out there on kickoff, and you'd be like, oh no, like. You don't need to see some of those guys running full tilt at you if you're not that kind of man. That's a toughie.
The only game that was, I remember at any moment thinking, man, they may lose this game.
Boston College. Yeah.
Because they were just so bad in the first half of that game and then once it turned, it was just like.
Yeah, I watched that game at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, and I said something unfortunate in front of about a 58-year-old woman who was a little.
Off.
Yeah, well, Tom slapped me on the shoulder and pointed to her. I was like, oh, sorry about that. We weren't tackling, and I emphasized the need to tackle, and I may have said some other descriptors. And
you probably said quit tackling like a 58-year-old woman. I hate 58-year-old women.
I should have said something like that. It would have been better than what I said, indicating that we were being soft.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was the toughie, and then there's no coming back from that. Like, I tried to a couple times turn around more, maybe offer up a beer or something, but there's no.
Yeah.
Just had to own it. I was a little less mature back in the 2013
you saw that hair.
season.
You saw that hair. You looked like a Greek god.
Terry writes, good day, gentlemen. Long post warning. Jeff, I was sitting in my living room last Tuesday night watching a movie with my family and using my phone to keep an eye on the FSU Miami basketball game when it became apparent early that the Platinum Bohica was not going to happen. And I uttered aloud, well, there goes the Platinum Bohica. Unfortunately, it was during a lull in the action. My wife paused the movie and looked at me with a mixture of confusion and concern and insisted I explain myself. She was not amused. My teenage son was, which made things worse. Have any of you ever had to explain a headlines or JCS inside joke to your family? Oh, yeah.
I mean, I literally, both Shanna and Stephanie on Tuesday, within a matter of probably 40 minutes, texted me, what is a Bohica? And I had to tell them.
Yeah. Tim Linnefelt texted me, hey, I just had to look up on Google what Bohica was. So I love that he typed it into his search engine. That's good. That'll be there forever.
So I can tell you guys this now. I didn't want to tell you at the time. Ken the Carver had reached out before the Miami game and said he wanted to do something special for Jeff for the Platinum Bohica.
That's because that's who Ken is.
And so he's like, can I get Tom's information? Because I want to get some. I want to mail it. He usually mails stuff to me. He wanted to send it directly to Jeff if the Bohica happened. And he goes, hey, I'm not sure exactly what a Bohica is, but this is. And he sent me something that was not the Bohica. And I hadn't responded yet because I was busy that day. And then he sent me another text later and he goes, oh, yeah, I don't know. I'll figure out something.
It's a tough one to carve.
The wood carving for what his interpretation of a Bohica is would really have been something.
I'll show it to you. It could have been used, to be honest.
Right.
But anyway.
Anyway, we didn't have to worry about it, did we? We didn't have to worry about it. I mean, they let out a lot of aggression in that game.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
They definitely denied the Bohica. There's that was the end of that. There would be no. Oh my God, that is too good. I had no idea how to respond to Ken the Carver via email.
Oh man.
Well, Ken, why don't you try to work something within these parameters? Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV continues.
Owner of Gem Mazda of Tallahassee, serving North Florida and South Georgia for over 20 years. And I'm happy to announce that things are finally back to normal at Gem Mazda. Our lot is loaded with brand new Mazdas for the first time in 2 years. So if you've been waiting for the price and selection of new cars to return to normal, the wait is over at Gem Mazda, where we've always provided our customers with the highest quality of service and care. You know Mazda's reputation for efficient, dependable, and affordable vehicles, but you simply must experience the luxurious new lineup of 2023 Mazdas in stock now at Gem Mazda during our New Year's sales event. Get adventurous and connect with nature in a brand new 23 Mazda CX-50 with all-wheel drive. But hurry in while the value of your trade is still high. At Gem Mazda, we take our slogan seriously. No games, no gimmicks, just a gem of a deal. Gem Mazda of Tallahassee, Capitol Circle Northwest, just up from West Tennessee Street, and always open at gemmazda.com.
My man Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hi, this is Jamie McClenny from Trek Financial in Tallahassee. Managing downside risk in your portfolio is one of the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement. Trillions of dollars in stimulus from the Federal Reserve and D.C. politicians, combined with zero interest rates, have propped up financial markets since the financial crisis ended in 2009. The Fed recently ended quantitative easing and has started to raise interest rates at a time when the global economy was already slowing. Have you considered what another 50% correction in the stock market would do to your retirement plan? If you're concerned about where this all might be headed and would like to find out about the potential benefits of an active risk management strategy for your portfolio, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule a time for a review of your portfolio from an active risk management perspective.
Make Jamie your first call for a second opinion. Investment advisory services are offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Wrapping it up, Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV, and a few more headliner questions. Kyle writes, hello, gentlemen. Is it me or did the ACC not do FSU a lot of favors? A bye week after Clemson, road games before Clemson in Miami, at least no Friday or Thursday games. Thanks for the great content as always. Kyle, I think Florida State did not get done dirty in any way. I think it's fine. If you go, the key to this whole thing is, as Ira said earlier, and Corey mentioned it as well, go look at your opponent's schedule as well and see who they're playing before you play them. Sometimes there's a real distinct advantage where somebody will have a bye week before they play you. That's not the case in this situation. Other times they may have in succession a lot of easy games. Clemson does have 2 easy games before they face Florida State.
Yes. But they're non-conference games. That was going to be the case.
That was going to be the case. So, yeah, I really don't have a problem with the schedule. Again, I think Ira mentioned it. You could quip one way or the other that you think it's great you're playing Pitt when you are. He's noted in his story that 2 weeks prior to it being cold and windy, it was 77 degrees in a game. So you just don't know in November in Pittsburgh. So I don't know. You're not going up there in the dead of winter. I don't have any real complaints here. It's
I always think back to Jimbo because when the schedule would come out, like the process for the scheduling is, the conference – every school puts in their requests like, hey, we don't want this to happen. We would prefer not to have this happen. And then they take that into consideration. They put together the schedule. They send it out. And then there's constant pushing back from the schools saying, we don't like this. Could you change this? Whatever. And then they go through that process. But like Jimbo, when he was here, I mean, as you can imagine, there was no other than just replacing all of the FBS schools with FCS schools. There was like nothing they could do to make him feel like. So and that was a guy who had a team that was loaded. So I can see where fans, you always think of the worst case scenarios, but I think overall, I think it's pretty solid.
And for the people that don't want to look it up, the first word is bend, and the last word is again. And you can put all the other words and what they mean. It's an acronym, so you can put them all in order. I remember because I looked back and I texted Shanna what it meant, and I was expecting like a gross or or oh or thanks. Just no response at all. Just did not respond at all.
She was like, okay, I'm just not going to listen to that show anymore.
Yeah, the next text was about Brady like a day later.
Still juvenile. That's all she
nothing.
said. Still
not even no response at all.
By the way, well, never mind. All right, we'll move forward.
Yeah, let's move on.
Hello, fellas from Bartlett, Tennessee. Is this a championship schedule or what? LSU and Clemson early to get the momentum going. You see any possible hiccups after the bye week? Thanks for the great content, and as always, go Noles. Well, thanks, Ted.
Thanks, man. I mean, we're old, so we see possible hiccups everywhere. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, there's a bunch of games you could say, well, man, that could be dicey. That could be tricky. That, there's, look, but the big games, as far as, obviously the big games, you're talking about Florida State, you're talking about Clemson, Pitt on the road, I think is a real challenging game. LSU obviously is a big challenging game, but assuming you win more than you lose of those big games, you should be in great shape for all those other games. I mean, the difference between this year and last year, to Jeff, you hinted on this earlier, is there's a lot more games that you feel very confident they're going to win. Whereas last year, it was like coin flip.
We thought they were all coin tosses. Yeah. They were all going to be a 5-point spread either way. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. This one, you have a couple of coin tosses, probably 3, maybe just 2. I mean, I don't know what Florida or Pitt are going to be at the end of the year.
Right.
But so, in September, you have 2 coin tosses. And quite frankly, you go 3-1 in September, everything is in front of you. It doesn't, you really kind of need to beat LSU more than you need to beat Clemson, because you can play Clemson again later in the year. But even if you lose to LSU and win at Death Valley, that's a very impressive win too. So if you finish September 3-1, you've got a chance to accomplish all your goals.
Got to finish 3-1 bare minimum to give yourself a chance at making the football playoff. I agree.
One other thing that's go ahead.
No, I was just saying, God help everybody if we're 4-0.
Oh, buddy. Buddy, are you kidding me?
Well, two things about that. Number one, I was going to say that it is, well, on that point, I think they'll be able to handle 4-0 better than they did this past year, because of the things we talked about, the things they've been through now.
And also the bunch of bums they're about to play.
Yeah, they get to play Virginia Tech.
Yeah, as opposed to the last time. Yeah, they were going through a different stretch. But the other thing is, if you are that team, if you're 3-1 or 4-0, obviously in that first month, I mean, the hype on this program is going to be incredible. I mean, if Florida State will again be the focus of college game day. There's so much residual attention you get from being where Florida State ended last season, but then going into a season and having that play out. I mean, it's immeasurable.
Imagine like having a 2 by your name for a month or 6 weeks or the whole season. Your chance to be number 1 like that's just. And that's stuff that you that not only lasts for those 2 months that you have a low number by your name, but all these kids watching it, all these guys in the portal watching it. You become it just becomes second nature for them to think of Florida State as a top 5 program.
With the way that recruiting has moved up in the cycle now, where the most important time is the early one, which has become the de facto signing day. The first 4 games are the most vital of your season in terms of making an impression on recruits, because those kids start to make their decisions right around then, and then they have their own stuff to worry about. And that's why I thought it was so huge that Florida State started 4-0 last year. And I didn't think the losing 3 straight games was going to hurt them in recruiting. And maybe it did, maybe it didn't with some kids. But winning that game against LSU with the whole nation watching was a big deal for Florida State in the world of recruiting, and it will be even bigger this year. If they get off to a 4-0 start and they knock off the bully that's been Clemson, and you beat LSU again in a battle of 2 top 10 teams, I mean, Florida State's recruiting is already in a better place right now. It's going to go through the roof if they start out 4-0 and you're in the top 5 for the vast majority of the season. Like you said, the only time you would start to get worried, and Corey, you brought this up last night. You're right. Jerkovich did transfer to Pitt, didn't he? So Phil Jerkovich could end up being really good for them. And that could be a tough test. We'll see. We don't know. There's always one game that you're not pointing to right now that suddenly looks a little bit more difficult than you thought preseason. My guess would be that one is maybe the one that could end up being a bit of a test late in the year. If you're ranked that high with everything on the line, and Pitt would get up for you. They could make that a night game. Who knows? Maybe the weather's inclement. But, man, I am here for all of that. Yeah. I am here for the nervousness that follows a team that has a chance to play for a national championship. It used to be that was the existence of Florida State fandom. You just went every week into every season knowing there was something major on the line to be lost or won if you could sustain excellence or not. It's been a long time, man, and that is so good for a program. It's so good for the city of Tallahassee, for the businesses. It's good for what we do, and it's good, obviously, for Noles everywhere that, once again, want to see their team be the talk of college football.
You know, it's funny, though. Like 2013 is the only national championship Florida State team that I've been around, and after early in the year, you kind of knew they were the dominant team. Until the Auburn game, And really, that was only because of kind of some of the just knowing that the SEC was.
Well, remember, they survived the Maryland game, too.
Yes, they did. But you kind of felt.
It was 7-0 second quarter, gang. It was 7-0. I'm just saying.
You didn't have that nervous energy before games. What was it like being Florida State fans when they were playing those Miami games that you knew, Miami and Florida games that you knew were the whole season because you didn't have a chance?
Starting Saturday night of the previous week, you're
That's
like,
correct.
okay, now it's Miami week. It's Miami week, and
the clock wouldn't even strike zero, Corey, on that other game the week before, and we would all start turning to each other and be like, all right, let's go. It's time. I mean,
it's your whole season. It's your whole season.
It was a whole season.
And you're basically counting down to that game. You got to get through these 3 games to get to that game. There might be a closer game than you thought in the middle there, but normally it was like, okay, those are the 2 dates. And it was like that for a decade until Miami got caught cheating.
Walking into those stadiums, whether it be the Orange Bowl down in Miami after you've survived no blocky, and also the walking into Doak. I mean, it was incredible. It was incredible. I can't believe the 9 minutes went like that. For Ira Schafel, Corey Clark, I'm Jeff Cameron. Thanks so much for watching and listening, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week. Be well. Go Noles. Peace.